Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today we talk about the recent fall of goaltenders in the NHL, as well as other news and notes around the league. Guys, thank you so much again for joining us here at I-80 Sports. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Make sure that you check us out down below at i80sports.com for all of our content besides just the NHL. We also offer the NFL, NCAA football, NBA, and MLS content as well. And while you're on our website, make sure you hit up our shop. 'Tis the season to be jolly, and you can make somebody jolly this holiday season by purchasing them a t-shirt, a beanie, whatever you feel. It's all there at our shop, so make sure that you check it out there. And if you're here on our website and not here on YouTube, make sure you check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/I80 Sports. While you're there, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell, all the YouTube algorithm things. Yay! And if you're on Twitter, make sure you follow us down below at I80_sports NHL. And if you're currently following us already, thank you all so much because we greatly value all of your support. Without you guys, we can't do this on a weekly basis. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Today is Thursday. And the good thing about it is I get to play hockey after this, and I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm doing well. And the Rangers won again last night.
That's a good day. I got to say, I played hockey last night. I felt great. We won 2-0. That's 3 shutouts in a row for our team. We got the playoffs coming up on Monday. We're playing at like 11 something, but we've got the playoffs on Monday for my beer league team. So totally exciting.
Played last night too on a little 3-on-3 rink. And for anybody who ever gets a chance to play on like a little 3-on-3 ice rink, I suggest you take it. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah. It's a blasty blast of fun. But hey, we're here to talk about NHL hockey, not beer league hockey, not open hockey right now. So why don't we dive in? Let's dive into, as usual, our traffic report.
The I-80 Sports Traffic Report, where you can find all your news and notes from the week.
Talking some news and notes around the league first before we get to the main topic of discussion for today. So first and foremost, what needs to be discussed, we can't necessarily hide behind this one, so let's talk about it real quick. The NHL is going to be temporarily tightening their COVID protocols. This means masks when possible, virtual meetings, etc. And in Canada, they're going full force with this because there have been COVID outbreaks around the entire league. It's not just one team. It's not just 2 teams. There are multiple teams that are currently dealing with multiple players on the roster out under COVID protocol right now. So that being said, this in response to the recent outbreak within the NHL, as well as much of the world, is the NHL taking proper precautions right now? Tom, let's start with you.
You know what? I'd say yes, but like it's like that with anything of this magnitude. It's all about liability. You know, somebody dies, somebody gets seriously ill. It's all about liability. It comes back to, well, if it's a fan in the arena, why weren't the protocols tightened in the arena if you knew that cases were increasing? Same thing with players. Well, why wasn't the organization taking every precaution possible to make sure that this didn't spread? It all comes down to liability. In the unsightly event that something terrible does happen, you know, these organizations don't want to lose everything, and it's understandable why. And I mean, that's what it's come down to. And it's just something that unfortunately has to be done. It seems to be growing more in Canada than here in the States for right now. As we know, Ontario, the Leafs and the Sens have knocked their attendance down to 50%. The Habs tonight are playing in front of no fans. I don't know what the plan in Western Canada is yet, as we don't know how bad it's gotten out there. Obviously, Calgary Flames are shut down, so that's out the window. But what Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Vancouver are going to do is anyone's guess. I know Winnipeg, as of recent, has said that everyone in the arena has to wear masks regardless of vaccination status. So it's literally just to tighten things up. You know, you don't want to shut down again. You don't want to go back to bubbles. You want to get this season off, you know, as easily as possible. And even right now, it's not going to be done as easily as possible. I think that the season may have to run later with all the cancellations we're having. So I believe that it's a good response, but at the same time, it's a, how do I put it? It's kind of an expected response. It's what has to be done because it's a liability issue, plain and simple.
It's an expected response, and more importantly, it's the right call right now to mitigate the spread of the current variant. The good thing is it does seem to be very mild, especially for those that are vaccinated. But despite its nature, it is still imperative to proceed with caution, or else there could be games lost, which is what the NHL is currently trying to avoid right now. This is the first time that the NHL could play a full 82 game season in 2 years. And the NHL is going to do what they can to mitigate that spread. Florida is currently working with a gutted lineup. They are missing names such as Carter Verhaeghe. They're missing Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, Frank Vetrano, just to name a few players on that team. They're missing a large chunk of their roster right now. Calgary is in the exact same boat, and even more than that. Montreal and Quebec City right now is not fooling around either. They have announced that the upcoming Flyers-Canadiens game will be played in front of no fans, going back almost to that bubble format from a year and a half ago. I think the NHL is doing everything they can to mitigate the spread of the virus, and kudos to the NHL for tightening policies up in this situation. Let's just hope that this tightening of protocols works out and that anyone affected makes a speedy recovery, because unfortunately this is still no laughing matter. Moving right along to things that are of no laughing matter, the Chicago Blackhawks have agreed on a settlement and agreed on the settlement of a lawsuit between the organization and Kyle Beach. And those who are not aware of this story should go back a few episodes when we discussed Stan Bowman and the response of the Chicago Blackhawks in this investigation. It's very sensitive material. Trigger warning to those that are willing to read it. Is this the end of the saga between the Chicago Blackhawks and Kyle Beach and the NHL, or are there still lingering questions? Tom, what's your opinion here?
You know what? There's going to be lingering questions for I don't want to say the time being, for the next few years, there's going to be lingering questions. At the same time, it's been settled, and as terrible as it is to say this, eventually it's going to be forgotten. It's not going to be forgotten about, but it's going to be out of the limelight. You had the similar situation, and I hate to even compare things like this, with the Penn State and college football and Joe Paterno many, many years ago. I believe it was 10 years ago now. And, eventually Penn State became Penn State football again. It's people are still going, we are Penn State. Joe Paterno might be remembered in less of a great light right now, but Penn State football is still Penn State football. Eventually, this is going to go to the back burner, unfortunately. And, the Blackhawks are going to beat those 3 cup-winning teams are going to be talked about again as, a team. Well, they are the team of the decade, but when, you go over the history league, they're going to be talked out of as the team of the 2010s. It's unfortunate, but it sort of is just kind of, it's the way things go. It's the way things go, and that's all I can really say.
Yeah, a lot of really good sticking points there, Tom. And I think this is obviously good news all around, that it does seem like that this door could be closing, but I still can't help but look at the Chicago Blackhawks organization differently now. After the complete incompetency by the organization regarding how they handled this entire situation, I can't look at Chicago in a positive way at all right now, to be quite honest. Tom mentioned before, you're going to get to a point where this gets forgotten. And I agree, time heals, but this is still a very fresh scar. And I think it's going to take a while for many fans and many, bystanders to look past this. So we'll monitor and see from here. Before we get into our main topic of discussion for today, it's time to talk some quick hits, and ironically, actually kind of has to deal with what we're going to be talking about today. But It's mostly goaltender quick hits here. So the New Jersey Devils have acquired goaltender John Gillies from the St. Louis Blues for future considerations. Salute to future considerations. We knew thee well in New Jersey. Good luck. Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Lightning has reassigned prospect goaltender Hugo Alnefelt from the ECHL to the AHL. And for those that are thinking to themselves, hey, Hugo Alnefelt, where do I know that name from? It's interesting to me because Hugo Alnefelt was Team Sweden's goalie for the past 2 World Junior tournaments, and those who have watched the tournament know just how impressive Hugo Alnefelt was. So this is going to be interesting for me, at least, to kind of monitor and see where he goes from here in the AHL in his development. So exciting stuff for him. Next, moving right along, the Florida Panthers have claimed Jonas Johansson from the Colorado Avalanche. More on that a little later, along with the John Gillies stuff. And lastly, in momentous news here, Marc-Andre Fleury, goaltender for the Chicago Blackhawks, has won his 500th NHL game. He is the 4th goaltender to do so. Tom, 2 points in a cookie. Who are the other 3?
Oh, man. 500 games, huh?
500 games.
Well, it's got to be 2 other French Canadians, right? It's got to be Marty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be St. Patrick, right?
Yep, those are 2. So who's the other 3?
Oh, wow. So there's 5 others, huh?
Well, no, 1 other.
1 other. All right. I'm going to need your help with this. I'm going to need some lifelines. Is he European?
Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I got my stats wrong. There was one player who came very, very close, and he is a more recent goaltender. Who is the one right behind Fleury?
Hank, right?
Who?
Lundqvist. Hank.
Nope.
I know he's close.
Number 6 on the list.
Number 6. Recent goalie.
Recent goalie who retired.
Who retired? Oof.
Or rather, within the past 2 years has retired.
Pecorine?
Nope. Good guess, though. Really good guess.
Where is he from? Give me the country he's from. Maybe I can narrow it down.
Oh, that'll give it away. That's no fun.
I'll give it away. It's not.
You want me to give you 2 teams? Though giving you 2 teams might give it away.
Your choice, either country or 2 teams. I'm going to let you pick, and I'm going to see if I can figure it out.
I'll give you 1 team. How about that?
Okay.
Because this one won't totally give it away. The Florida Panthers.
Florida Panthers. Oh, crap. Is it Luongo?
Yep, it's Bobby Lou.
See, that's the thing. I always associate him.
It's
See, if you would have said Vancouver Canucks, I would have known immediately. I always associate him more with the Canucks.
Well, yeah, that's why I didn't want to give you the Canucks, because at least by giving you
what you should have said was Islanders to totally screw me up.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That that totally would have screwed you up in that regard. But hey, it's time right now to pump the brakes.
Not so fast. It's time to pump the brakes.
Hey, we were just talking about goaltenders, so we might as well stick with goaltenders right now because we had quite a bit of goaltender news this week, and not so positive goaltender news, I gotta say. So quite a bit happened this week, so let's recap. We're going to focus on the Dallas Stars first, just because there are 2 goaltenders that this concerns. Number 1, former Dallas Star goaltender Ben Bishop has announced his retirement from the NHL after battling a degenerative knee issue for the past year and a half. Just really, really sad to honestly see. And he fought so hard to come back from this injury. He's been working for a year and a half to try to come back from this injury, and it just was never meant to be, unfortunately. And it really does suck to see, to be quite honest. And in not so shocking news, yet shocking twist of fate in this regard regarding another Dallas Star goaltender, Dallas placed Anton Udobin on waivers, and he has since cleared waivers and is now down in the AHL. What's interesting with this is both goaltenders from Dallas from the Dallas Stars, these were both goaltenders in their Stanley Cup run a year and a half ago. And now they're not on their NHL roster, only a year and a half removed from the run. Is this surprising? Is this shocking? Tom, let me get your reactions on both goaltenders.
I'm not sure if it's surprising or shocking. What didn't make sense to me from the beginning was why they carried both of these guys along with Braden Holtby. And I think it was more or less that they were giving Holtby a second chance after such a bad year in Vancouver last year and kind of getting ousted in Washington. But the thing about it was, if you look at those three guys and you place all three of them together, Holtby was the best of the three. So how do I put this? You have Holtby there. Holtby's on fire again. And I don't think Holtby ever really went away. I think the thing with Holtby was that made him look like a has-been was the fact that Washington was trying to cut some fat from their cup win. And I think Washington was scared of giving him too big of a deal because they saw what happened when Lundqvist got the big deal with the Rangers and Carey Price got the big deal with the Habs. So they moved him to Vancouver. Vancouver last year had every wrong thing in the world happen to them. Okay, losing Markstrom was bad, but I think that the overall onus was, well, we're bringing in Braden Holtby, a proven Stanley Cup winner. Vancouver had the COVID problems and arguably the worst travel schedule of any team in the league last year. So that really screwed Holtby up too. So I think that they both sort of knew that, okay, well, Bishop had a degenerative knee issue, but we still have Hudobin. But let's just bring Holtby in to sort of be the buffer. Maybe he still has something in him. I don't think Holtby ever lost anything. And Holtby came in there and outdid both of them. So it's surprising, but the thing is, it'd be more surprising if both of them were the two goalies Dallas had, and say they had to call up trying to look at their depth chart here, and I can't seem to bring it up. And if they had to call somebody up from the minors, for argument's sake, and they didn't have Holtby. So in a way, it's sad news, but at the same time, if you look at the way Holtby's playing for Dallas this year, it's not really surprising news because you got a rock in that net who can still play.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so I'm going to talk Ben Bishop first, and then I'll move on to Anton Hudobin. First, in Ben Bishop's case, just kind of remembering his career, a very unsung goaltender for so many years. Nobody really thought about him as like an elite level goaltender until he got to Dallas. And I don't know if that was necessarily right, because you look back on Ben Bishop's career, he was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy 3 times, unfortunately never won. But he led the league in goals against average in 2015-2016 with a 2.06 goals against. He also led the league in save percentage in 2018-2019 with a 934 save percentage that year with Dallas. That was the year that people started to recognize Ben Bishop as like, okay, maybe this guy is an elite level goaltender. Ironically, a year before his final full season in the NHL. He was a workhorse for so many years. Just look at this stretch of 3 years from 2013 up until 2016. 2013-2014, he started 63 games. The year after that, 59 games. The year after that, 60 games. And 2 of those years were Vezina finalist years. And yet still, people did not necessarily see him as an elite level goaltender with the Tampa Bay Lightning at that point. And like I said, it wasn't until he got to Dallas, until age 31, that people started to recognize him. It was like, this guy's actually pretty darn good. Just to kind of highlight it, from 2018-2019, he came in second for the Vezina that year. He led the league in save percentage, like I had mentioned, 934 save percentage. Surprisingly, he did not lead in goals against average. He still sported a 1.98 goals against average. That is bananas when you also consider that he started 45 games that year. He was an impressive goaltender, to say the least. He was a very good goaltender for a while. He was a workhorse, and it's sad to see his career end like this. It really is sad to see his career end not necessarily on a good note. Not necessarily getting the Stanley Cup that I really truly think that this goaltender deserves. and retiring so young at the age of 35. His career stats, the way they end up in 413 games played, he had 222 wins, 128 losses, uh, and 33 shutouts to sport that. He sported a 232 goals against average and a 921 save percentage. Not a bad career whatsoever for Ben Bishop. And I think he's going to be remembered fondly when people go and look back on this two-time All-Star. Good luck on your retirement. I'm sorry it's not on better terms. I wish you could have hoisted a Stanley Cup before the end of your career. Moving on to Anton Khudobin in this case, and I'm not surprised he cleared waivers. You're looking at a goaltender that any team that was going to pick him up was going to have to pick up a $3.3 million contract for a goaltender that right now, this season, currently sports an 873 save percentage and a 373 goals against average. That is abysmal. And to those that are saying, well, this is kind of coming out of nowhere, Anton Khudobin is a fantastic goaltender. He's really, really good. 2019, 2020, Anton Khudobin was very good. He led the league with a save percentage of 930 that year in 26 games started. Then he picked up a little bit more slack the year after with 32 games played last year. Game started, that is. A 905 save percentage and a 254 goals against. And it's not horrible, but it's trending backwards. And if you look at his age, 34. The writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall for Anton Khudobin. I don't think it would have been wise for any team to have picked up his contract. And it does not surprise me that he's now down in the AHL. We're going to be talking about our next team in just a minute. A team where a lot of the fan base was just like, why didn't we pick this goaltender up? He makes so much sense right now, but he really doesn't. He needs to work out whatever is going on with him down in the AHL before he's possibly ready to come and back up Braden Holtby again. And as Tom mentioned before, this is Braden Holtby's job right now. I mean, just to pull up his stats for those that don't kind of believe me that he really is back in full form right now. Currently a 923 save percentage, a 239 goals against average. He's been battling. He's been doing pretty well. 14 games played. He's got 5 wins, 6 losses. It's not necessarily indicative of the way the team has performed, but he has been playing a lot better as of late. This year has been slowly becoming his career renaissance, especially after 2 straight disappointing seasons with Washington and with Vancouver. In Vancouver, he played abysmally last year, an 889 save percentage with a 367 goals against. This is a really, really good sign for an aging goaltender just like him right now. Moving on to the next piece of goaltending news. The hits keep on coming for the New Jersey Devils in goaltending right now, and they just cannot catch a break. Jonathan Bernier has been placed on a long-term IR with a major hip problem that may require surgery, hence why they acquired goaltending depth from the St. Louis Blues. That's why they acquired John Gillies just a day ago. It's so unfortunate to see based on his renaissance. Plus, the Devils have just had bad luck the past 4 years with 1A/1B goaltenders. Corey Schneider, Corey Crawford, now Jonathan Bernier. Tom, what are you thinking right now for the New Jersey Devils? I mean, what is next at this point? Does Jonathan Bernier play a game again?
I don't know. And if he does, will it be this year? Who knows? It's hard to tell with these hip surgeries. It really is. Some guys come back from it and they're fine. Other guys come back from it and can't do anything. It's a slippery slope with these hip surgeries. It really is. And it's weird. It kind of reminds me, and I hate to compare my favorite team, the Rangers, to the Devils, but it kind of reminds me after we lost Brian Leetch all those years ago, our number one defenseman. And then for years, we never got a number one defenseman who was equivalent to Brian. Like, look at the Devils, for example. Marty Brodeur. Marty Brodeur is the greatest goalie ever. I mean, arguably. You can argue between him and a couple other guys. But it's funny, after you lose Brodeur, it turns into Corey Schneider, it turns into, okay, we'll have this guy and he'll step into Brodeur's shoes. And it just seems like it's a rotating goalie carousel over there lately. And yeah, it's in the league nowadays, you do need good goaltending, but I'm not sure if you need a Brodeur caliber level goalie now. I think you just need a guy who can stop the puck and win you a game or two. But it is just unfortunate with the Devils. They keep trying to fill that goalie position, and it just doesn't seem to ever work. So I don't know with Bernier. I really don't. He was having a good year for the Devils. I guess it's kind of a wait-and-see thing here. You just got to hope the hip surgery goes well. You got to hope he rehabs it, and when he gets back out there, hopefully he finds his game again. Hopefully this isn't the curious case of oh no, this guy is done after that hip. You know, it's terrible. You know, what more can you say?
It's true. And it's ironic because this is there are two other goaltenders that kind of come to mind in terms of this type of injury and potential surgery that follows. The two goaltenders in question were former teammates, Roberto Luongo, Corey Schneider. One goaltender rehabbed very well from it and ended up, prolonging his career in the NHL. Roberto Luongo, played more great years with the Florida Panthers after that surgery. It took him a while to get back, but he was able to be a serviceable goaltender in the league going forward. Corey Schneider's case, post-surgery, he was never the same player, and it was unfortunate. A lot of Devils fans tend to forget just how good he was early on in his New Jersey Devils career, and even early on in his Vancouver days. He was one of the U.S.'s best goalies at that time. A lot of people thought that he was robbed when the NHL was not going to the Olympics, that he was robbed of the opportunity to really be the starting goaltender for the U.S., and just how well the U.S. could have done with him in net, with a two-headed monster like him and Jonathan Quick in net for Team USA during that time. And there was talks that Schneider would probably beat out the battle in front of Jonathan Quick at that time. It's unfortunate to see. Last year you had Corey Crawford. We all know how that one ended. I don't want to open up those wounds. And then Jonathan Bernier's case is just so unfortunate because he had a career renaissance last year with Detroit where, the past couple seasons, he's been just so serviceable in general for the past number of years. At 33 years old, I can't bring myself to think that his career could be done from this. I can't bring myself to think about that. And I hope he rehabs well in terms of, what this means for the Devils. Mackenzie Blackwoods is going to need a step up in a very, very big way. There's no security blanket now. You didn't have a security blanket last year. You didn't really have a security blanket the year before then. And, well, you just lost your security blanket now. John Gillies is not going to be that security blanket. He's going to take a couple games from you and give you a little bit of a break here and there. You could also rely a little bit on one of the AHL's best goalies this year, Akira Schmid, down in Utica, who played his first game over the weekend against the Islanders. But other than that, Devils really don't have much in terms of goaltending depth, which is kind of troubling to see. We've seen a kind of a revolving door of goaltenders at the moment, and it leaves me to kind of think, what will eventually be the permanent solution for the Devils? Is Mackenzie Blackwood even the permanent solution at this point? No one really knows. I think he is, but he needs a 1B. He needs somebody that can take some games off of him, take the slack off of him when really, really needed. But for Jonathan Bernier, speedy recovery, dude. I really hope you come back soon because the Devils very sorely miss you right now. And then lastly, on our goaltending news for the week, talk about a fall from early grace. The Florida Panthers have sent Spencer Knight down to the AHL in a really surprising move. So I'll keep it simple. Is this the right call, or should they keep him up to work through these recent struggles? Tom, what do you think?
I think with their situation right now, it is the right call. They're still one of the best teams in the league. They're challenging for first place in the Atlantic Division. You have, a proven number one goaltender in there in Sergei Bobrovsky, who's having himself a decent year. I'm looking at his stats now. Right now, Bobrovsky's 12-2-2, 237 goals against, 920 save percentage. On the contrary, Spencer Knight, is having, I guess, what you would want to call a decent year. 6-4-2, 342 GA, which isn't that good. 892 save percentage also isn't that good. Don't quote me on it. I'm not much of an expert on goalie stats. I never played goalie in my life. I just, I hate to say it. John Tortorella used to say it, like, well, how do you work with your goalies? I put them in the net and don't worry about them. That's sort of me with goalies right now. I'm not the smartest person with goalies. I will admit that. But just going and looking at Spencer Knight's last 5 games, I mean, they haven't been good. He gave up 8 to Ottawa the other night, 4 to St. Louis before that. Played pretty well against Buffalo. Had nothing against Buffalo, but then Seattle he gave up 3 as well. And like I said, at the same time, if you were a rebuilding team and the Panthers were just kind of, you're not going to make the playoffs this year, maybe you were a bubble team, maybe you keep them up. But you have a proven number one in Bobrovsky. You're one of the better teams in the league. Let me just pull the standings up real quick. You're sitting there challenging Toronto for that top spot in the Atlantic Division. You got a nice winning percentage here, one of the top winning percentages, points percentage in the league. I think right now what you do is you play it safe with him. You send him down to the AHL, let him get some work and let him get some time. Because like I said before, the situation they're in, they're a winning team. You need to win games. You need to stay, competitive in that. You need to stay relevant in that ultra competitive division. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning there. So, yeah, I think sending him down is the right move. He'll get to play as many games as he can in the AHL. And maybe they bring him back up. And if we bring him back up and he dazzles, maybe they look to move Bobrovsky, like I had mentioned in our team preview this year. But at the same time, yeah, I definitely think it's the right move.
I think it's the right move also because the one thing that needs to be addressed right now in Spencer Knight's game is the inconsistencies. You were mentioning before a little bit about his game log, and it's kind of ticky-tack right now. His last loss to Ottawa, giving up 8 goals, it was like a beach ball in that. The problem is also he was left in for the entire game. Also, he played all 60 minutes that game, 30 saves on 38 shots. He got hung out to dry that game, plain and simple. The game before that, 4 goals in that game, also went in overtime. Now, the win against Buffalo, where he posted a, quote, shutout, he came in a mop-up, unfortunately. He only played 29 minutes in that game. But then just looking back, I mean, inconsistencies, like 2 rough losses, gave up 1 goal in a short game against Washington where he only saw about 12 minutes of gameplay. 3 goals against Seattle where he played the majority of the game. A really bad loss to New Jersey earlier on this year. 6 goals against that one. Just inconsistent down the board. And I think a trip down to the AHL could very well, kind of set him straight because a lot of people tend to forget with this kid. He's a kid. He's only 20 years old. He's maybe a couple months away from turning 21. He's still a kid. He's developing. Goaltenders take a while to develop. They're one of the positions that take a long time to develop. Them and defensemen take a long time to develop. This is not a major concern for Spencer Knight. He is still very much in the future plans of the Florida Panthers. It just so happens that, Sergei Bobrovsky, with his $10 million cap hit, is actually playing like a $10 million goaltender right now. Plain and simple. He's 12-2 right now in 18 games played. He's got a 237 goals against and a 920 save percentage. There's not more you can ask for from Sergei Bobrovsky. So in Spencer Knight's case, maybe he's just happy that the team is doing well right now. He's going to go down, he's going to get his seasoning, and he's going to get his opportunities again. This is not going to be a permanent send down, I don't think. I think he's going to be back up in no time flat. Maybe he's just down for the holiday season. So we'll see. We're going to move on from here, and it's now finally time to talk some high performance.
Your I-80 Sports High Performance Players of the Week. Your I-80 Sports High.
I think it played. I have no
idea. No,
it
did play. It played once, and then it kind of played halfway afterwards.
Oh, well, it's fine. We'll leave that one in.
What can you do?
We'll leave it in. Bloopers are funny. So, players of the week. So, Tom, who do you want to highlight this week?
Well, I got two obvious ones here. I actually had three obvious ones, but my third one I'm going to throw out because I just don't feel like talking about him.
Fair point.
I'll leave that player to you, who is playing very well right now. I got two obvious ones. My one obvious one, Austin Matthews here, having himself a hell of a string here. 9 points in his last 6 games. 6 goals in those 6 games. He didn't score a goal a game, but he's on a goal a game pace. And the Toronto Maple Leafs right now are the best team in hockey. I mean, wow. We say that every year around the quarter to third mark of the season around holiday time. But yeah, the Leafs are really dispatching teams, and they're the top team in the league right now, and he's a big reason why. Now, another guy I want to bring up is another obvious one, another player whose praises I have sung a lot, and that is Nathan MacKinnon. Now, I'm only bringing up MacKinnon because from what I saw on Tuesday night against the Rangers, MacKinnon took the Rangers apart. He took the Rangers apart. And as big of a Ranger fan that I am here, and as everybody wanted to call the Rangers cup contenders a week ago after they had won 7 straight, right now, if it was the Rangers and the Colorado Avalanche in the final, I'd be booking tickets to go to Game 4 at the Garden to see Colorado lift the Stanley Cup, just to see the Stanley Cup, because MacKinnon is something else right now. He really, really is. In his last 6, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points over his last 6. The Colorado Avalanche, who everyone was saying at the beginning of the season, oh, they're frauds, they're nothing, they should have never let go. They should have never let go of Grubauer. Right now, the Colorado Avalanche sit 3rd place in the Central Division with 36 points, behind the Minnesota Wild with 39 and the St. Louis Blues with 37. But here's the thing with Colorado. They have played 3 less games than those guys. And with the way Colorado is playing right now, Colorado's going to be right back in first place in that division before we can blink an eye. I said earlier this season, I said, don't worry about Colorado. They'll figure it out. And boy, oh boy, are they figuring it out. And boy, oh boy, is Nathan MacKinnon a huge reason for them figuring it out. Now, I got a surprise player for my third one before I turn it back over to you. And that's another team who seems to be playing very well lately. A team just to the east of the Toronto Maple Leafs, just to the west of the Montreal Canadiens. That team's the Ottawa Senators. And that player is Brady Tkachuk. Tkachuk's having himself a nice little run here over his last 6. In his last 6 games, he has 9 points. And in those 9 points, he has 7 goals in his last 9. Brady Tkachuk, he got that contract, was handed the C, and he's playing like he really, really deserved that contract. He's really tearing it up for Ottawa right now, and they're turning some heads. Don't know if they'll be a playoff team. That division is kind of strong, but man, hats off to Brady Tkachuk. Just under a point per game pace right now, too. 22 points, 23 games. So hats off to Brady Tkachuk as well. I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian.
Amazing what happens to Ottawa when you finally ditch Matt Murray as your goaltender. Shots fired. So, for me, I wanted to highlight a couple guys here, and I thank Tom for not highlighting this particular person. Alexander Ovechkin, I feel like we talk about him every week, but man, this man, he is a man on a mission, and I've been saying it for weeks now that he's a man on a mission. So much so that it shocked me when I checked this week. I'm like, oh, who's currently leading the league in points right now? It's got to be Leon Draisaitl, right? Nope. It's Alexander Ovechkin, 46 points. He leads the league. He's got 46 points. 21 of those points are goals. The only person in front of him right now in goals is Leon Draisaitl, as I mentioned before. 23 goals for him. Honorable mention to Leon Draisaitl, too, just for being just damn good at hockey. It's so
Edmonton's
good.
just been terrible lately, though.
Yeah, Edmonton hasn't been anything to write home about, but, it's what happens when you build your team around just 2 players. Anyway, the other 2 guys I wanted to mention here, Freddie Anderson for the Carolina Hurricane. Despite the fact that they currently have a bit of a stoppage at the moment, Freddie Anderson's been plugging away, and he's been playing hard and playing really good
right
hockey.
now, actually, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, that's true. They're kind of getting back into the swing of things. 14 wins so far on the season. He's sporting a 1.92 goals against average, which currently leads the league. He has jumped this week into that lead in goals against average, so good for him. The other goaltender I want to mention here, I thought about mentioning him last week, but I'm going to mention him this week because he's just continued his progression. James Reimer for San Jose. really just good performance from him as of late. A 1.99 goals against average and a 936 save percentage for him. A breath of fresh air, very much so for the San Jose Sharks. James Reimer was also added in free agency just this summer as well. So those are the guys I wanted to highlight here. Before, of course, we move away from you guys today, it's time for our question of the day. The question of the day is this: out of all the goalies mentioned in the main segment, whose departure leaves the biggest hole right now for their team? Tom, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, the answer's got to be obvious here. The answer's got to be obvious, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to harken back to what I said. It's got to be what happened in New Jersey with Jonathan Bernier, just because the Devils don't have somebody to lean back on. Dallas, you have Braden Holtby, who unfairly was pegged as his best days being behind him. I don't think his best days were behind him. Like I said before, I think Washington didn't want to hold on to him because they were afraid of the contract. They were afraid of what he wanted and didn't want to invest that much into a goalie. And like I said, over in Florida, you have a $10 million goalie in Sergei Bobrovsky, who has won Vezina trophies and has shown he can play in big situations. The Devils don't have either of those things. And the Devils, and Brian, I know you know as well, you're a Devil fan, the Devils are trending downward in a very bad way right now, and this does not help them. This does not help them. Believe me. So, yeah, I mean, the answer is obvious. It's the Devils. It's Jonathan Bernier and the Devils.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, you look at the other departures from teams currently, they're inconsequential. Spencer Knight is certainly disappointing for the Florida Panthers right now, but he's going to be a kid that's going to be back up in no time. Anton Udobin and his struggles so far have been very disappointing for Dallas, but hey, they got Braden Holtby to lean on at the moment. Ben Bishop retiring very abruptly. It hurts Dallas, but like I said, they have Braden Holtby right now. That has been a blessing in disguise for them. For New Jersey, this couldn't have come at a worse time. They're currently trending downward in a bad way. They're currently losing right now to the Vegas Golden Knights 2-1, at least being more competitive tonight for sure. But it's also very disappointing to see that Jonathan Bernier is going to miss potentially the rest of this season with this injury. Hopefully this doesn't hinder him for the rest of his career or even end his career. But it cannot be understated how big of a blow for the New Jersey Devils this truly is. Something that we're going to monitor, and certainly I'm going to be watching for weeks to come. But hey, as usual, guys, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with our takes today? You got to make sure that you let us know in the comment section down below. And hey, while you're there, in case you haven't already, make sure you subscribe down below. And here's our URL just in case, youtube.com/IAD Sports. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, get notifications, all that fun stuff. Yay, algorithms. And yeah, while you're there, also drop a like because we love likes. We love if you like our content because we certainly like you. And make sure you hit up our website down below, iadsports.com, where not only can you find our NHL content, but you can also find our NFL, MLS, NCAA football, and NBA content there as well. And 'tis the season to be jolly, and you can make somebody jolly this holiday season by hitting up our shop. Get yourself a t-shirt as low as $8, and you can also get other goodies there as well. But make sure you check it out. And also, if you're currently on Twitter, make sure you follow us down below at I80_SportsNHL. And if you're following us already, thank you guys so much. We greatly value all of your support. Without you guys, we can't do this on a weekly basis. Time to move away from here. It's time to slowly get into the holiday season. We are coming at you next week with 2 episodes, a news episode related to the World Junior Tournament and our Christmas episode. We're bringing back that naughty and nice list next week. It's going to be a fun time next week. You got to make sure you join us next week. But for now, I'm Brian. He's been Tom. This has been yet another episode of NHL on I80 Sports.